not just for the panel, but for everyone. How can the church and the community have a greater voice in AI development? Most of us, I think, where AI is compared to other sciences, it's a relatively new field, or it's still a field that is still developing. And there are areas that maybe need a lot of input, maybe by the church. Mostly about 3 areas. I was thinking about the data. For example, when you talk about the chatbots that we use, the technology, it's called the transformer technology. The chat GPT and Microsoft has Copilot and all of those. Whatever answers they give is dependent on the data that is used to train these models. If the data that is used to train these models goes against what we teach as the church, or what we believe in, the people that are using it, because the data that is used influences the answers that you get, the output that you get from these. And most of the time you don't know the data that is used. And I'm not aware of any Christian model, maybe large LLM or generative AI. So the answers that you'll get sometimes, maybe you can tell AI to produce a picture, and they'll produce a picture that is very, very contrary to what you have in the Bible, but someone will take it as the truth because we trust that AI is giving the correct answers. How can the church have a voice in that? 2 is part of the ethics, because the ethics that are the commercial, whatever the people that are developing these AIs, the ethics that they may follow may be a little bit more loose than what we have in the church. Case in point, we had, for those people who follow AI, a few months ago, one of the biggest companies in AI is a company called OpenAI, which is funded by Microsoft. And they had a huge issue that came to the front where the board of the company wanted to actually, the words they used is that they would rather have the company fail than they introduce something that would be detrimental to humanity. And I think what was happening is there was a bit of a struggle between the chairman, who is Sam Altman, and the board, because I think he was moving forward at a rate which they thought was not right and was not correct. The other bit was about scholarship in AI. It's a field like any other field, and the church also needs to be involved in the scholarship. How can we have a greater voice in that? And the 4th area was awareness in the church. Because people take on AI. If you use ChatGPT, I use ChatGPT quite a lot, and they give you warning at the end, is that the data they give out may not be correct. It may not be fully correct. Sometimes they have a term that they use for something like ChatGPT, which is hallucination. If you use ChatGPT and tell it to make a quotation, and I'm just talking about ChatGPT, but it is not the only one. Tell it to make a quotation. For example, you are writing a paper. If it cannot find a quotation, it will actually manufacture a book and an author. So how can the church be much more involved in that to ensure that the people that are using AI, at the end of the day, a huge part of them will come to the church once they've been hurt by these technologies? How can the church have a greater voice in that? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next question, coming that way at the end.
Okay, my name is Reverend Beatrice. I'm a student in St. Paul's University, taking divinity. And my question is from the presentation from Professor Murege, where he was discussing on cyborg and how there is post-humanity. And my question was, is it this overcoming humanity or overcoming mortality? Because you have said there's new kidneys, you're able to get a new kidney, you're able to get a new heart. And from one of our lecturers, there was a discussion where we are told in heaven there's no sorrow, there's no tears, will be given cities to manage. And I was just thinking, is it this becoming a cyborg, overcoming mortality, is it not the new heaven where there's no sorrow, there's no tears, you have cities to manage because you've been given dominion?
Professor Chemori,
And,
those are the lecturers they test.
This and if Christians come up and put policies as people of faith and have a stand, is this not the promised heaven? Thank you.
Okay, all right. Okay. The other hand was right here.
Yeah, I think my colleague student has addressed what I wanted to ask, because I was looking at the super intelligence, super longevity, and super well-being, especially in relation to the question of the immortality of the soul. And I think the problem at hand is the question of the mortal bodies, and that's what AI is really trying to address, especially when we look at those three concepts. And so I would say God is at work revealing all this, because I would like to say that even all these scientific discoveries, God is behind it, so that we should be able to integrate God and science, in the sense that we are not doing this alone. God is behind all these technologies. And so what God is doing currently is reconciling the universe back to himself. And at the end, I think there is no heaven. We are not going anywhere, but we are currently creating the heaven that we want, and the intention of God at creation, the immortality of human beings, and the question of sin in Genesis chapter 3. So I think God is in the process of reconciling humanity and the entire universe back to himself. And so maybe the question that I would like to pose is, are the scientists and the atheists, for example, the stones that Jesus said, at the end, if you will not praise me, I will cause the stones to praise me. Maybe they are the stones and they are praising God. So at the end of it all, God is at the center of everything. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I think I'll start by, I'm Imam Salim Charo. And okay, I'll start what Archbishop Kibarabara yesterday said something on demons. And yes, yeah, and we've heard from Prof there that most of those who fund these projects are atheists. And that is well reflected in the Quran, where Allah says, and this was in regard to Iblis when he was cast out of heaven. So before he went out, so he sweared and he said some of the things that, but this is what I've been able to quote, that, and I will command them, so they will change the creation of Allah. And this is what we're experiencing right now. But again, if I'm to be a bit technical, there is something we call usulul fiqh, the principle of jurisprudence in Islam. And we put some of the considerations. Now there are these advancements. So we look at the maslaha, what's the interest in some of these things. And as we are doing all this, we should look at something we call saddu dharai. Saddu dharai is blocking the means to evil end. So at least when we are looking at these things, we should also balance as well, because it should not expose us to things that we get to a point. I think for those who watch movies, there is one by Will Smith called One. And that was some years back, I don't know, like 10 years back, but it was, I think it was preparing us for the AI, because there was this company, creating robots, and it got to a point the developer got, lost the control of the robots and, the menace they caused. So, and we should look at it and from the angle of Sadhu Dharai, that we prevent or we are blocking the means to the means to the evil end. And again, let us also look at the world, at the earth. The way Allah created it, it's that He says, "Huwa alladhi khalaqa lakum fil ardi jamia." He created for us everything that is on this earth, for us, to make it easier for us to worship Him, to make it easier because we know this is where we prepare for the heaven. So all these things are there to make things easier. And I'll also quote one more verse where he mentions the means of transport at that time, where it was mule, it was camels, it was donkeys, horses, and so on. And he said, Allah says that, and I will create for you other means to make it easier. And then today, now we are talking of, flights, now that's aeroplane and so on. So these are things that we should embrace. But at the same time, let's look at the ethical part of it. And so that it may make it makes easy for us to achieve what we were created for, to worship God. So, and as presentations were being made, I was thinking how we are, where we have gotten. Someone mentioned that some of the preachers have gotten to a point where sermons are prepared using ChatGPT or the AI. And I've tried personally a couple of times. Yeah, but this is for a person who knows what they are doing. So if you are not a theologist, it can mislead you. Sometimes it quotes verses which are not the actual one, and but sometimes it can, and unless you are able to give it a specific, you are able to prompt it. It can give you good results. And now I'm trying to look at. Okay, I'm winding up. I'm trying to look at how we want things to be, how easy we want things. Because look at how it was during COVID, virtual service. We are just seated at home. Now let's assume the sermon was prepared through AI, and now it's being presented virtually online. And now when it gets the time for tithing, we have M-Pesas. Everything is, AI. You are doing everything virtually. So so where does it lead us to? Because are we going to get to a time where we don't want to get tired? So because you want to pray, you are praying for something, but at least through your imagination, AI can read your mind, and you say, those are my prayers. Amen. Thank you.
All right. And then we have, now they have increased. Okay, then please make it brief. Just a question.
Mine is not a question. Thank you so much for the presentations. I would like to imagine, for instance, like when you talk about the image of God, the Imago Dei, we are created in the image of God to continue the work of God. And the issue of what the humanists' agenda is to replace God or misplace God and his position and say we can exist without God. And from the Reformed perspective, the place of the sovereign God still remains, and God remains God, even when we participate or join in the agenda. And two things that I want to finish with is, in as much as we have the agenda of joining or participating or contributing in the AI agenda, I would love that we remain good learners, good students, to see what is happening, but also have reflective commitment as a faith people, where we are committed to our faith, our practices, our values, and commitment to God or the deity that we know, and also to Christ. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Just a little comment and reaction. My name is Ombaka. Oh, really, all I wanted to say is science is a tool. And like any tool, it's used to do something. And what science, in my opinion, and I'm a scientist at that point, what science actually is doing is revealing God. AI is a science. And in all that is coming out of it is that God is revealing himself. And at this point, I want to leave me at that point. Thank you.
Okay. Finally.
Maybe let me speak when I'm studying. Well, I've been listening to all what is going on, and I really want to thank God for God, the men God have given, who are so intelligent and who are doing everything to make sure that we go where we are supposed to go. But I also think, especially concerning the AI and all kind of technology which we have today, there is so much which is happening to remove man from God. Most of the things which are being done. And let me say, God is God, and he was in the beginning, and he is now, and he will always be. Nothing can change him. One of the things we know is that when man becomes so, or when man has a lot of intelligence, sometimes men tend to think, I can do without God, but it is impossible. Even when it comes to science, I believe God is the greatest scientist. And whatever knowledge God has given us is so that we can use it for his glory. But today, there are men who exist and they want whatever they are doing, the glory to go to them, so that they come to that realization that I can do without God. But as a person who have been brought up in faith, from when I was very small up to now, I know God is God. There are many things have had being talked about, even about the chip. Like the very first time I came to know about the chip, I was not told by any man, but God. And I saw myself going somewhere where there were other people, and then there were people like these ones who were seated there, and I was told, you have to have a chip. And I looked at them and I asked them, why should I have the chip? They told me, wow, because we already have all your information. I asked them, how did you get all my information? One of the things they mentioned was about this, what do you call it? This thing which we were, not the ID card, the other one. Huruma number, yeah. Yeah, I was told through Huruma number we came to know a lot about
Huduma.
you. Huduma, not Hurupa. It's Huduma number. So I was told we have your information, and in order to control you, we have to put a chip on you. And they told me they want to put it here. That time I know you can, in the Bible it is either here or here. And they said they would like to put it here so that we can be able to control you. And they started explaining. They told me, the person who was speaking told me, if we put the chip under your skin, one thing which will come out of your skin is blood. Of course, nothing can be put under your skin and there is no blood coming out. And so they said the blood is a mark of the beast. It shows it is a covenant between you and the beast, that when that chip comes to you, you already have a covenant between you and the beast. And that's why it's called the mark of the beast. And then I just looked at them and I told them, if that is the case, then I'm sorry, I will not accept. And the people who were talking to me, they were smartly dressed. They were men. They looked like security people, but they didn't have uniform. And so they told me, if you have refused, can you look at that? I said, yes. What is it? I see there's a police station. They told me, then you have to go there and tell them that you have refused to take. And by that time, there were other people who are standing behind me. I looked at them and I told them, you know what? I will not accept to go there. Because if I go there, they'll do whatever they want with me. And so I told them I choose to go on the other side. And I told the rest of them, maybe they looked like they were brethren, let's go. And we started walking away. I'm just giving one example, many others I can give, that all what science and the rest are thinking that they are doing. And it's okay to have knowledge. It's all in God. And it was there from the beginning. If you look at somebody like Elisha with the floating axe, what do you call that? And so these things are not new. But I thank God that men of God and also those who are, who are intelligent, professors and the rest, and the scientists and all what you are, it's only God who is revealing who he is in another way. But then the problem is, and I thank God that we have those who are scientists and yet they fear God and they know who God is. But the real thing is, we are being moved away from God. And people can start even saying that there is no heaven, there is no what. We may not need God for healing. There is nothing like that. God is God and God will remain God. We can have all the intelligence, but let it not remove us from God. Let us not destroy ourselves with the knowledge God has given us. He has given us for good. And we should walk that way, and we shall be able to help many other people. And so I'll just stop there. But if there was more time, I would speak of several other things to show that God will always be God. And we should not allow anything to take us out of God.
Yes, and of course, when we talk about the question of God, we are talking about the creator of heavens and earth. He created the heavens and the earth. The earth is man's dwelling place.
Thank you very much. My name is Reverend Professor Kabiro Agatumo. I thank God today my hand has been seen. Yesterday I lifted it the whole day, and it was not seen. One thing I'm very happy about this conference is the theme. Equipping Christian leaders in an age of science. Probably we would have also wanted in an age of foreign humanity, because that is where we are in. But one thing I want to say, as Christian leaders, we should not fear science or science moving us away from God, because there is nothing new that science invents. The aeroplane is a symbol of a bird, which is God's creation. The submarine is a symbol of the ark, which is God's creation. AI is just the human being which God created. So we cannot create anything outside from what God has created using science or even using religion, because we also have bad religion and bad faith. So we are saying, let's get into this with a mind that, as is being said, it is God revealing himself. Deuteronomy 29:29 says, all sacred things belong to God, but he reveals to his own people what he wants them to know. We are in the process of knowing, and God is in control. There should be no any alarm. Whether there is heaven or no heaven, for me I say, where I want to be is where God is. The presence of God. It might be on earth or in heaven or in where else.
And because of his presence everywhere, there is nowhere that God is not.
Thank you. Bishop Malema is my name. Allow me to just remind us maybe one or two things. I've really enjoyed the presentation of our panelists. One, I would say God created man, and God gave brain to man. And so what man is creating or trying to do using the brain that God gave him cannot be superior to the brain that God gave him. Yeah. Number two, if we use AI or any other thing and get our lifespan increased, maybe to 200, 300 years, you cannot compare with the eternal life. So how many years is eternal life? How many years is, And then another thing is that any theory, this is my belief, any theory or any philosophy that we get, it's either one is backed by God or one is backed by the devil. So let us be keen and know which one is of God and which one is of the devil. And then human beings are social beings. So if we get to the moment of COVID-19 and we came to virtual services, we missed the aspect of socializing, meaning we were not complete. Although it's a signpost that the future is reading something, but let us be reminded that we are social beings and we need to relate.
Because that's who we were created to be. I want to cut it off there and just say just one thing and then we'll break. Let us be very careful that we are not sidetracked from issues that do not bring about the essence of our being as God created us to be. 2, there is nothing that can thwart the plan and the purpose of God, no matter what it is. 3, God is the creator. Everything else is creation, including Satan. Satan is not at par with God. Let us not confuse these things. And therefore, if God has created us, and by virtue of our disobedience to him, then we have the problem of sin, because we disobeyed God in Adam as our representative head. God was not defeated even by that, because in his foreknowledge, because he knows everything, and by saying that he knows everything, it is his knowledge, not what we think of him, because our minds cannot contain God. Our minds are limited, and the limitations even of our mind tend to make us think that we can create or make something that will make us more than who we are by virtue of creation, which we cannot. So that as we engage with these things, let us remember, science, and it has been put very well, is a tool that we use. Science asks, what is there in this that God has created? And we delve into it, and probably we are yet even to get to the heart of it. AI may be just a tip of the iceberg, if we may use that term. Science does not ask the question that relates to the purpose and the intent. It does not ask the question, why? Science asks questions related to what? And we use the process that the professor has talked about, analysis, engagement. We hypothesize and we do that, and we say that, have you used the scientific method? It's only to deal with the surface. But because of who we are as human beings, we have a higher calling and a higher purpose. The telos then belongs to the Creator, not to us as creatures. And may God help us as we engage in these things to know that we are here for the purpose that God has intended. And whatever will become of who we are is also part and parcel of that which God foreknew even before the creations were made before the foundations of the earth were laid. Isn't it a joy to know that our life does not constitute what AI is trying to do to enhance everything? Because after all, we know there is a problem. AI cannot deal with that problem. The problem of our fallenness. Can we appreciate our presenter in the panel? And I'll take this back to the MC.
Thank you very much. Let us appreciate Prof for that session. Now, that was quite an interesting session, isn't it? You know, AI in my community, now we have always had it. We call it I. From the conversation. From all this conversation, I'm seated there and I'm saying, I. So AI has always been there. In your community, has it not been there? I. But one thing I have not heard from this panel is, let me say this, tech has always been there. From time immemorial, tech has always been there. Communities have evolved. Technology has been used positively or negatively. They should have told us, how can we use AI positively? Because that is inevitable. How, and those were the questions on the side. It is inevitable to use AI. We must. How can we appropriate AI in our faith conversations, in our sermons? How can we do this? But let us appreciate them. Time is limited, and I understand that, but it has been wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And I know we are coming back to another quite intriguing session on biotech and biomedical engineering. And it is quite another interesting area to listen to. So we are grateful. We will break for a cup of tea now. It is served at the back. We are supposed to come back at 11. And I want to request that we come back at 11 because we have two panel discussions, presentations. We have two panelists and we have two keynote speakers. And therefore we will need every time that we can get to hear them and have the panel discussions. So thank you very much. One more round of applause to this team. I want to welcome us for a cup of tea. Let's enjoy a cup of tea and then come back. Thank you.